Hey everybody, good afternoon. This is John in Temecula, California. It is, I think, the 13th of March. Um, Weather's been raining. Today's sunny. It'll be sunny. I'm in a valley. I'm about 1,000 feet up, so it gets, I don't know, it's about 40 degrees at night here. Right now it's 60 degrees Fahrenheit. During the summer, it'll be in the hundreds, one of those kind of places. Um, so I got the 500 SL 1991 Mercedes Benz, and it's charging the battery up. I just put just a small charge on it. I checked it, and it was at just under 12 volts. I disconnect the battery when I don't use it. I haven't used it in like maybe a month and a half. I just disconnect the battery. I don't have one of those trickle chargers or anything. I just don't like things plugged in at a, you know, could start a fire or something, defective piece of equipment. I don't know. But it's no big deal. I just disconnect the battery. And today I'm going to do a super cold start on it. Now, the car runs fine, and it's always, it's ever since I've owned it. I think I've had it since, 2013? It's now 2021. And it's always had an issue with cold start. If you drive it every couple of days, and it just starts up fine and everything, but if you let it sit for periods of time, then it takes a special technique. I think what's happening is, you have a fuel injection system. You have the fuel pump back here. Running up to a fuel distributor. And the fuel pump has it's got a filter. It has an accumulator, and from what I've heard, is the accumulator, it's there to keep the pressure in the system so it starts. Well, after I've read, after 24, 48 hours, even when the systems are good, they lose fuel pressure. So with this thing, you've got to turn the key on, and you can hear the pump run, and it's pumping up the system, the pressure. And if you try to start it, there's still not enough pressure in there to start it. So I pump it up a couple times. Do not touch the gas pedal at all when you start it. And then it'll start up. This car could probably use, it's 30 years old. I have replaced a lot of, just fuel distributor caps, spark plugs, rotors, alternator. All the fuses have been replaced to correct. I think they're copper fuses, I think, or brass fuses. Original fuel injectors. My son's car, it was a 300E with an M119 engine, and it always had cold start problems. And what I did with that car, I ended up replacing like the fuel pump, the fuel filter, the accumulator, everything involved in the fuel system. I cleaned the fuel distributor out, all the screens in it and everything. And it turned out to be leaking fuel injectors. And this car could possibly need new fuel injectors, or have them all cleaned out or something. It's only got 38,000 miles on it, and I don't really want to do that because I know how to start it and it runs fine once it is. And it, you know, it's got a low mileage. The previous owner, what is it, 8 years ago I bought it. His, I think his wife was 80 years old. It really didn't drive it. And so the fuel system gets a little gummed up and stuff. I mean, I could run some fuel injector cleaner through it, but I hate putting any fluid, any foreign objects in the system. But there's a product called Cataclean that I did use on a W126 I had that had all kinds of fuel issues and it would not pass emissions. They said, oh, you probably need new catalytic converters. Well, this Cataclean, you put this $25 bottle, I think it's made by Gunk. You put it in your gas tank, but you run your gas tank to, you're like on reserve where you got like 20-mile range, you know, hardly any gas in there. This stuff is in there. And then you drive it around. I drove it around town here and up the wine country and just floored it going uphill and just, you know, and then came down, put gas and went back to the mission guy and it passed like super clean. He goes, what the hell did you do to it? And I told him what I did. And so it was this stuff called Cataclean. So I could do it with that. I trust that product because it just made the car run fantastic, the W126. But anyways, let's see if we can see what it's like to start this. I've got it on a 2-amp. The 2-amp charge. It's probably just fine. Let me disconnect it. All right. So I'm back in the car, battery's hooked up, put the key in. Okay, now I could hear the fuel pump back there. Then I hear the central locking pump for the doors, charging up. Then I do it again, and then try it. Boom. Boom. Wow, and there's gas in it. Cool. It's a little lumpy. It'll straighten itself out. Back it out of the garage without hitting anything. It's a tight squeeze. Always have to watch that mirror and that side of the garage. You can just rip that mirror off if you're not familiar. Tires are making kind of a noise. Let's let it warm up. Everything works in this car. Pretty soon it'll be time to put it in a convertible mode. Take a look at this engine. You can hear the air pump. It's part of the emission system. Once it warms up, the air pump stops. Tires look good. My little grandpa wipers in there. Never used them. I don't think I've ever used the windshield wiper because this car's never been in the rain. Oh, it's purring so smooth. There's your fuel distributor. Old school. See, I've replaced the belts. I think these are still original hoses and clamps, so they're in good condition now. I've recharged the AC system was converted from R12 to R134A. before I got it. But I had the gauges and stuff, and stuff is cheap. Add maybe a half a can before the summer. Does need a new hood pad. I replaced that, but they disintegrate over time. 8 years. Yeah, they start disintegrating, so I just cut the bad part out. Wait till it really gets bad, or if I go to sell it. I did replace the coolant tank. I think the over voltage protection, OVP, over voltage protection relay. I was hunting down a battery drain issue. So I started replacing all kinds of stuff, and then it turned out to be an intermittent issue with the alternator. The alternator was draining the battery. Even though it showed that I was charging it, once the alternator got warm from driving it, something would happen to the diode and would just start. It was so weird. I bought a new battery, everything. Anyways, I think I have that on my channel. The 6-month nightmare of diagnosing it, and it would die. The car would die on you, and then restart. One of those things. Is it fuel? Is it electrical? Well, you can hear it now. It sounds great. Yeah. Yeah. 322 racetrack. Original paint. So smooth. It's nothing like Mercedes paint. I just picked up this 2006 Lincoln Town Car, and it's got 20,000 original miles on it. I mean, it's perfect. Got it from a little old man, 89-year-old. Stopped driving. That car is the best car, the smoothest car I've ever driven. It was better than the S-Class I had. And I joined a bunch of forums. I mean, some of these guys have 600,000 miles on their original town car with the original engine, original transmission. Parts are cheap. Yeah, my wife wanted it. She won't ride in this. She doesn't, I don't know. She likes it, but when it's in a convertible mode, it's messing my hair up. You know, some women just are not into it. And she's the one that wanted to get it. Okay. Let's put a seatbelt on. I'm just gonna go around the block. I haven't been able to drive it because I had that town car. My wife had all these surgeries, and it's been like months of hell. She's now recovering from a couple surgeries we had at the beginning of March, and dealing with COVID and all that stuff. We didn't get it, but the testing for it, that was insane. Okay, yeah. See, I got my finger over the camera. Let me, yeah, I guess I can hold it like this. So there's nobody behind me. No. I was thinking of maybe selling this thing, but I don't know. It's, how often are you gonna have one of these? Never again, you know, I mean, low mileage. just gonna take it easy. I don't have, I took it off the insurance just because I wasn't driving it all winter. But I want to keep the fluids. I'm gonna put it back on real soon here. The weather's starting to get nice. Brakes are good. It's been a good car. Values on it. This thing has doubled in value since I bought it. I mean, what? 38. I think I got it with 32,000, so haven't put that many miles on it. It passes emissions every time. Just driving around the block, get the fluids running through it. The worst thing you can do is just let a car sit. Oh, bring it up to temperature, use the brakes. It started up pretty good for me there. You saw what I had to do, turn the key twice just to build up pressure in the fuel system. It's supposed to be around 60. I think it's about 60 psi. You know, there's really nothing wrong with the components. I mean, the car, once it's running, everything's fine. It doesn't die, or you know, other than that electrical gremlin that I hunted down, but it doesn't miss, doesn't leak anything. It does leak a very small transmission leak. It's weird. It doesn't drip at all on my driveway, but if I park it in a flat garage, then it has maybe 1 or 2 drops, and then it's done. It's, I believe it's just a rear main seal. When they sit a long time, like the previous owner, it sat a long time. And when I pulled it out of his garage, and there was a pan there, and it had some transmission fluid on it. I go, what is that? He goes, what? 80-year-old Japanese couple. And I go, what is that? Transmission fluid? He goes, yeah, it has a small leak. I go, how long has that been there? Oh, 20 years, 25 years. I've never cleaned it up. It just, I'm like, oh, okay. That kind of freaked me out though. But yeah, it doesn't even use any fluid. I mean, it's like, it's just the rear main seal gets dry or something, and there's additives you can add to that. That gets clear. This thing just gets up and moves. For being a 30-year-old car, it smokes most cars in this town. It just has a lot of torque. That Lincoln's got a lot of torque too. It has a what is it, a 4.6 modular Ford V8. And it's got this, I think it's the police interceptor engine. Man, those things go for miles and miles and miles. Easy to work on, tons of room compared to this. This thing is like not much room to work on. Anyways, cool. People learning how to skate. Yeah. So I'm back. Look at that Lincoln. All leather. And what's great is the previous owner, before I bought it, all the documentation, receipts. He brought it to a dealer, and it had rear air suspension. It had airbags, right, instead of coil springs, and they leak. And it's a common issue with those things. The forums I'm on, suspension warning. What do I do? I mean, I just post after post, and so there's a kit that you can get and replace the airbags with coil springs. And he had that done at the Ford dealership. He had everything done. I mean, he had new Michelin tires put on a year ago, new battery, all the fluids, fuel injection, decarbonized. I mean, anything that, you know, for service for 20,000 miles. I mean, he had brake fluid, power steering fluid, coolant, all kinds of stuff, you know. So I basically don't have to do anything to that car but drive it. And I waxed it because he really didn't wax it too much. Anyways, this is Joan, and I've got, I gotta go. I got my stereo. Let's see if, well, since I disconnect the battery, you gotta reprogram this thing. But it has a bass control right here, amplifier in the trunk, and then somewhere back there, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a big, you know, woofer. Anyways, this is John. It runs, it's good. Next month, what is it, April? Yeah, maybe about towards the end of April, I'll take the top off and just leave it off for the summer. It's kind of nice though. It reminds me when the top's off. It reminds me of being on my motorcycle that I don't have anymore. Open air. Get one of these. Later.